This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Almost all of the matchups for the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs have now been set. So let's break down the first round of both by talking to Tom Vecchio for today, getting his read on the NBA matchups, Stanley Cup playoffs, and the futures market to let you know where he sees value over at FanDuel Sportsbook. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and FanDuel Research. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a managing editor of digital media for FanDuel Research, joined here as mentioned by Tom Vecchio. Check Tom out on Twitter at Tom_Vecchio1. You, of course, know him from here on Covering the Spread, but also the Daily ISO. Tom, happy playoff season to you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Loaded slate of games tomorrow and Sunday, obviously moving over the next couple months is what we're going to be having on an every night basis. Best time of the year, high intensity games. I think there are some really good markets to be attacking, especially when it comes to direct series outcomes, total games. Those are the spots that we really like in the playoffs.
And we'll be picking your brain on those later on for today. You're going to hear Tom here plenty on Covering the Spread over the next couple of weeks because of the playoffs, but also you can hear him over on the solo shot every Monday and Tuesday beginning next week. So a lot of Tom coming into your podcast feed on the FanDuel Research podcast feed and here on Covering the Spread as well. We'll dig into the NBA first, then talk NHL in just 1 second. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcast. We already discussed this weekend's EPL slate with Austin Cass on yesterday's show. You can find that here on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Got his read on his best bets across match week 34. I did talk NASCAR and Talladega too, and both the bets I recommended have not moved. So bit disappointed by that, honestly, but hey, you can still get those bets at least, which is a benefit there. Find those on the Covering the Spread podcast feed, the FanDuel YouTube page, and over on FanDuel TV Plus as well. NBA play-in tournament wraps up tonight. That gives teams a chance to play their way into the postseason. So it seems only right that new customers on FanDuel can play their way into $150. Just place any $5 bet and you'll get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, to use during the NBA playoffs. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only, $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and Vermont. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777. Or visit ccpg.org/chat Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700. Visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghealth.org in Maryland, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, Tom, most of the playoff matchups have been set in the NBA, so let's start things off there and talk about the NBA Finals market. Right now, the Celtics are plus 135. Nuggets are 3-1. Nobody else is shorter than 14-1. So big drop off there. Do you agree with the market on how big the fall off is after those top two teams?
Yeah, quite a big disparity between these two teams and the rest of the field, but it is accurate. No matter really what you look at, and in terms of you want to dig into advanced stats, you want to just keep things at a surface level. The Nuggets obviously have been great for a couple of years. The Celtics were in the conference finals, the finals the year before. You look at Boston when it comes to offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating, they're 1, 2, and 1. Denver in those same categories are 5th, 8th, and 4th. They're just clearly the best teams. And sure, Denver's 5th in offensive rating. Are the Pacers ahead of them? Yeah, but we've also talked about all year about the Pacers don't know how to play defense. So when push comes to shove, we can always rely on defense when it comes to the playoffs. So the market is very concentrated up at the top, and then there's this cliff to everyone else, but it is actually very, very accurate. And it does kind of leave you searching for some value. I think there are ways to go about finding value, but it's very thin at the moment.
One route you'll take pretty often when you like a team but don't like their odds, you'll consider, finals MVP, stuff like that. Do you think there's value in that market for the NBA right now?
There are, if you're willing to go for some longer shots, but I actually like the direct outcome of looking to Boston to beat Denver or Denver to beat Boston, whatever if you think Denver's going to repeat, it's fine. I think that's the best way to approach it, because we're not taking a team at plus 135 for a championship. I'm not taking, Boston, but I think them playing Denver is obviously a very likely outcome. So I'm willing to go to some of these like secondary markets to do that. I wouldn't take Tatum at plus 220.
Right.
I wouldn't take Jokic at plus 310. And I'm not willing to go to any of their teammates just because I don't think they are going to win it.
Right. Okay.
So, and listen, I will say, if you like, I don't know, if you like OKC Thunder or you like the Knicks or you like some team, this would be the time to take an MVP future on those players.
SGA is 19-1. So if you were looking at that, if you want to go that route, they have shortened. They were 15-1 yesterday. They're now 14-1. So seems like at least some interest in the Thunder right now. SGA specifically 19-1 to win NBA Finals MVP. The direct outcomes you mentioned were Celtics to beat the Nuggets. That's plus 480. Nuggets to beat the Celtics plus 620. Preference for you between those two, or are they both still stayaways for you?
It would be the Celtics. I actually have that at plus 550 from a few weeks ago. So I like Celtic. Like I said, this is the outcome. It's the chalk is expected to hit this year. I would say more than any other year.
Okay.
And this is obviously, if you want to root for upsets, this is not the market to be looking to, but I do think Boston comes away with the win this year. I think they will beat Denver. I got that ticket at plus 550.
All righty. So sitting at plus 480 right now, that is some good movement in Tom's favor. Let's talk about the West playoff series, because all those have been set. Still waiting on one from the East. But let's start things off in the West, Tom. Looking at series prices, things like that. You can look at spreads in series and things of that nature. Where are you seeing value in the West at FanDuel Sportsbook?
That's starting right at this game, and that's with Dallas at minus 134 on the series money line. They are one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the league right now. And it really also comes down a lot to the health of Kawhi Leonard, who missed the final 8 or 9 games of the regular season. There's always been mystery around Kawhi and his injuries. They think it's like pretty moderate, and then it turns out to be like a full ACL sprain, and he ends up not playing for the rest of the year, like 2 years ago, whenever that was. So, not having Kawhi is a massive downgrade for the Clippers. They're still a good team, but with how hot Dallas has been and, the lack of Kawhi not being there, really should put Dallas in the driver's seat for this series. So I like them minus 134. I probably wouldn't take them on the series spread, because if Kawhi does come back games 5, 6, 7, if they can get it that far, maybe they don't close it out early, but I do like Dallas to advance.
Again, that is minus 134 right now. FanDuel Sportsbook for the Mavericks to beat the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard was at practice earlier on this week, but about 25%, they said, running about a quarter of the reps. So pretty tough to ramp up that quickly to be ready to go for the opening games of this series. So Tom's on the Mavericks minus 134. Any other prices in the West for you, Tom?
That would be the Suns series to go 6 games. Suns versus Timberwolves, 6 games at plus 185. And I really like going to the total games for the series in both NBA and NHL, because, we're not taking a winner here, so we're not locked into one thing. And there's ways to hedge out. We get to game 6 and let's say the Suns are up 3-2. You can take the Timberwolves and you can hedge out. You could come out net even. And it also gives you something to play long in the series. Then you can bet the series game by game to find a middle. Again, leaves you options. So this series is a close series. I see the Suns as favorites, as they should be, even though Minnesota's the higher seed. The Suns have that playoff experience. They have, veterans who have been there. It's a young team with Minnesota. I think they've had a great step this year. I just don't know if they're ready for the playoffs. So I like this series being a little bit back and forth. And if it gets to a game 7 or game 6, then into a game 7, we can hedge out.
Minnesota franchises are not allowed to win playoff series, so I think you should just go with the Suns in any way. The Suns are minus 140, Wolves are plus 114. That, of course, is a joke. That is not financial advice. Please do not listen to what I just said. But regardless, it's cursed. Imagine being a Minnesota sports fan, Tom. Just avoid it. Avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, not the greatest stretch between them missing field goals for the Vikings, the Twins just never showing up.
Hey, they showed up last year. That's all that matters. Not this year. We will disregard this year, but they showed up last year. So Tom likes the Suns plus 185. Or sorry, the game to go, the series Wolves versus Suns to go 6 games. Theory there was Freudian slip, as I assume they'll lose this series despite being a very fun team to watch. But likes that series to go 6 games plus 185. In the East, we have 3 of the 4 matchup sets. So where are you seeing value there, Tom?
That's going to the Cavs on the series spread at -1.5 at plus 104. They are better than the Magic. And, what I said about the Timberwolves is largely the same for the Thunder, maybe a little less so for the Magic. The Magic, again, took a really nice step this year. They have a really young team. I don't think they're ready for the playoffs. I just really don't think they're ready for the playoffs. The Cavs have been there, the last few years. They get to 1 round, they get to 2 rounds. They have tough matchups against the Knicks, Boston. Like, they have that experience. They also have a player in Donovan Mitchell where, the saying that everyone uses in the playoffs is is there someone on the team that can go get me a bucket? And that's Donovan Mitchell for the Cavs. And there's really not that same player for the Magic. Well, I think Paolo Banchero, I've talked about him before. I think he's on his path to being a star. They're just not there yet. Him and the team overall. So I will take the defense that we have with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, that true star with Donovan Mitchell to lead them. I'm going to say in a quicker series.
Again, that's a series spread at FanDuel Sportsbook where you can bet the Cavs to win this by more than 1.5 games. That is a plus 104 at FanDuel Sportsbook for right now. So basically the Cavs win in 6 or fewer games is what you're saying with that one on the series spread there for the Cavs and the Magic. Any other bets you like in the NBA in general, Tom, or should we talk about the NHL?
I think you can go to the Knicks and the 76ers. That series is not going less than 6 games. And, the Knicks opened up as underdogs. I saw them at -108 and the 76ers were -120. Lines have moved a little bit. This is not going to be a quick series. I think the series is going to be a war. It's going to be very, very tough for both sides. They're both very good teams. Obviously, the 76ers getting Embiid back. They're building momentum. The Knicks have been, doing their thing for a while. I think you can put maybe a little bit a quarter unit on each at 6 games and 7 games. Keep it simple. You have no rooting interest overall. Again, bet it's game by game throughout the series, and you're still left with a spot to come out net positive.
The 6-game number for this series, Knicks and 76ers, is plus 190. The 7-game number is plus 220 for that one. Tom sees a pretty tight series back and forth that should give us 6+ games of total entertainment because this should be a pretty fun series, I think, too.
I will also say whoever wins this series, I think, moves on to the conference finals.
Okay. I like that call. Preference for you between the two, or do you just want to avoid rooting one way or another?
Yeah, I'm just avoiding one way or another. I will say if the 76ers stay healthy and they get to the conference finals, that does pose a threat to the Boston future. I have direct outcome over the Nuggets kind of thing.
Yeah. There was a prop I thought I saw somewhere where you could bet it was under playoff specials that I don't see posted right now, where you could bet number of total series for a team to win.
Yeah, those were there somewhere.
Yeah, they're not. I don't see them up anymore. I don't know what this Heat Checks tab is, but yeah, okay, it's not that. But either way, you could look around for potentially finding that too to bet on either the Sixers or the Knicks to potentially make a run should they win that opening series. Okay, so Tom is seeing value on the Mavericks -134 over the Clippers, the Suns and Wolves to go 6 games plus 185, Cavs -1.5 games at plus 104, and again, the 7 or 6 game numbers for the 76ers and the Knicks. Let's shift focus now and talk about the NHL, where the entire field has been set as we've had our final games of the regular season. And let's talk about the Stanley Cup odds first. The Hurricanes are plus 650 to win it all. Then there's a drop-off, but it's not nearly as big of a drop-off as what we have in the NBA. 5 other teams plus 850 or shorter. So, Tom, we've been talking a lot about the Stanley Cup futures throughout the year. Where do you see value now that the field is actually set?
I am sticking with my preseason prediction of the Dallas Stars at 8-1. I have the Stars at 10 or 11-1, wherever it was at the beginning of the season. I believe they are one of, if not the most complete team in the NHL. Complete teams in the NHL. They have a great forward group. It is very deep. They play great defense. They also have a great goaltender with Jake Ottinger. They basically check off every single box that you possibly want. They have great underlying metrics. They have great offense. Everything is there for Dallas, a team that has, been in the mix in the second, maybe third round over the past few seasons. So I like Dallas at plus 800. I also like Jake Ottinger, their goalie, to win the Conn Smythe at 35-1. That is the award for playoffs MVP. If I'm expecting to make it this far, it's probably going to be because either A, one of their forwards is having an amazing offensive postseason, or Jake Ottinger is carrying them to, this spot where he's just standing on his head. He's absolutely fantastic. It's 35-1.
Okay, I was scrolling and because I didn't hear the actual price.
Jake
Ottinger is 35-1, as you mentioned, to win the Conn Smythe. Again, 35-1 for that. The Stars 8-1 to win the Stanley Cup Finals. If you're placing one of those bets, Tom, do you just want to go with the safety of the 8-1, or do you want to take the long shot with Ottinger?
I would go with the 8-1 because, again, if I don't know, if Jason Robertson has 10 or 12 goals throughout the playoffs, he'd probably win it.
Okay, so Tom is on the Stars either way. Let's check in on the East first, Tom. Where do you see value in the East playoff series for the Stanley Cup playoffs?
That's going to the Maple Leafs and the Bruins, a series that we have seen many times over the past however many seasons. Boston has come out on top every single time, and it's going to be the same thing approach for the Knicks and the 76ers. It's going to be either 6 or 7 games for Boston and Maple Leafs. Under playoff series, if you click on playoff series, that'll go into the options.
Okay. Looks like just games right now.
No, that's not the game. That's the series.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thank you.
So Boston, Toronto, if you go into that one, it'll say 6 games, 7 games. Boston, so 6 games, I saw it at plus 164. Again, same approach with the Knicks and the 76ers. This is not going to be a short series, or plus 194. So plus 194, it's not going to be a short series. These teams are very close, as the series price would indicate, at Boston only being minus 120 for the entire series. We're in for a long defensive matchup. While both of these teams have great offenses and they have true star players with Austin Matthews and David Pastrnak, this is going to be a rough series for both teams just because they have seen each other multiple times. They are true rivals. It's going to be an awesome series. So 6 or 7 games for this one.
Both those numbers, as you mentioned, are plus 194 at FanDuel Sportsbook for the series to go 6 or 7 games. Any lean for you on the series pricing? Obviously, I'm not going to force you to make a bet here because you think it'd be a close one, but
it's too close to call.
Okay. So no lean there for Bruins versus Maple Leafs, but Tom does like that one to go 6 or 7 games. Again, both those are plus 194. Anything else in the East for you, Tom?
The East, probably not.
Okay.
It's tough to find value sometimes when we have teams that are this heavy favorites, like with Carolina, with New York Rangers. So, maybe you want to take a shot at a direct series outcome where Canes win 4-1, but I don't want to like spread myself too thin with too many options. All
right, let's talk about the West then. What you seeing there as far as series prices go?
That's going to be sticking with Dallas. Dallas on the series spread minus 1.5, plus 158. Like I said, they're just a dominant team. Vegas, I think they're getting a little bit too much credit. If you look at the conference odds or the Stanley Cup odds, they're a wild card team and they're ahead of Vancouver. Vancouver's the number 2 seed, and we see Vegas ahead of them. I think they're getting maybe a little bit too much credit, coming off their Stanley Cup last year, as we saw last season with the Avs getting too much credit from their Stanley Cup 2 years ago, where Vegas is kind of stumbling into the playoffs and the Stars just have things locked down right now. They secured the division. They're looking great top to bottom. Everything I said about them before is true here. I think they take care of business when it comes to Vegas, and Vegas just won't have everything ready to go to take them on in a series. And Vegas, with all the injuries that they have, activating players off long-term IR, which is a different discussion, they just won't have it all together versus a clearly superior team this year.
So the Stars to win by 2 or more games is plus 158 at FanDuel Sportsbook right now. How much of this number and the Knights being overvalued do you think is tied to their Stanley Cup playoff history? Of course, going almost all the way in 2018, their first year, and then actually winning it all last year. Is it just confidence in them when it comes to the playoffs that might be a bit misguided, or what do you think that is?
I think so. Again, if you look at the Stanley Cup odds or the conference futures, like we can see that Vegas is sitting here as a wild card team ahead of Vancouver and Winnipeg, who both have home ice. Vancouver's the number 2 seed, yet there are multiple Western Conference teams ahead of them. And I think Vegas is overvalued at this point.
And that's your favorite way to fade them is via the series price for the for the Stars Mavericks for the Stars at -1.5 plus 158. Okay. Anything else for you in the West, Tom, or just the NHL in general?
Yeah. So if you go into the Winnipeg Colorado series, there should be a section that says series points, total points for a player, points leader. It's Nathan MacKinnon at plus 140. The number is not super long, but it is the right price for him. And, I hate to use these cliches and whatnot, like, oh, a player, he's built different. He's all these things, but that's really there's no other way to put it when it comes to MacKinnon. He has 100 career postseason points in 77 games. He literally produces every single time he steps on the ice with 140 points in the regular season this year. Anytime he's on the ice in the postseason, he puts up points, regardless of the team, regardless of how many rounds they go. This is a very close series, but it should go at least 6 games, which will put him in a spot to have at least 10 or 12 points. And I think that will put him ahead of everyone else on both rosters.
And the longer series can work two ways, because it does mean that the Jets are scoring points too, which puts their skaters in contention for this market, but it also means it's a larger sample for MacKinnon to separate from the pack. And if you think that he's truly that far above the rest, both in general, but specifically in the playoffs, then that larger sample for you can wind up being a benefit, despite the fact it does make the Jets skaters a bit more viable here.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. And the only player I'd be truly worried about on the Jets would be Kyle Connor, realistically, just because he's a pure goal scorer. Yeah. Mark Scheifele is their center, so he can certainly facilitate the offense, but he's not nearly as good of a goal scorer as MacKinnon.
Okay, so Tom is on MacKinnon plus 140 for the Avs and the Jets. Any final thoughts for you on the NHL, Tom, before we send off the good people to enjoy the opening day of the playoffs?
Lean on unders as the playoffs go on. We'll definitely see some of these the first round games, especially in the NHL. We'll certainly see some games end 5-3, 6-2. But that's gonna tighten up as the playoffs go on.
All right, so the NHL, Tom is on the Bruins and Maple Leafs to go 6 games or 7 games, both those numbers, plus 194. The Stars, minus 1.5 against the Golden Knights at plus 158. Then Nathan MacKinnon to have the most series points for the Avs and the Jets, that is plus 140. That is all that we have here for today here on Covering the Spread. Back with you once again next week, which should be a fantastic weekend of sports across the NBA and NHL. Tom, appreciate the time as always. Enjoy this opening weekend of the playoffs. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Find Tom on Twitter at Tom_Vecchio1. I am on Twitter at Jim Sonis. You can also find FanDuel Research on Twitter at FanDuel Research. Want to thank you all for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your bets this weekend and enjoy all the fantastic sports. We'll talk to you once again on Monday. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.